Human trafficking is a problem in virtually every country.
Broward County ended with more than 100 people in handcuffs accused of preying on women and minors forced into the sex trade.
About 18 when I met my trafficker.
An estimated 25 million people around the world today are being held captive, manipulated, and abused by human traffickers.
President Trump signed the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act on Wednesday.
Let's go! I am not for sale! 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 I am not for sale!
Human trafficking has become a huge problematic empire in today's world. It has affected many local communities like ours in Great Falls, Montana. What can we do to prevent our nation's children from being sold into slavery?
A new governmental program called Trafficking Victims Protection Act, or TVPA for short, was passed in the 2000s to help protect America's women and children. We chose to speak on this topic and learn more about it to help not only ourselves, but our community and nation to understand and combat this new American plague.
Well, there's no community that's immune from human trafficking. If there's a community that said we don't have human trafficking, I think they just aren't aware of the human trafficking going on in their community. It's widespread.
Traffickers represent the very worst of humanity. They threaten our treasured communities, and we know their crimes contribute to the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous people here in Montana.
Today, there are 3 common types of human trafficking: sex trafficking, forced labor, and debt bondage. And while these are by no means the only types, they are the ones that people are usually exploited for. Nearly 80% of people who are forced into sex trafficking are women and girls. Yearly, traffickers exploit 1 million children in the commercial sex trade. It is the 3rd most profitable criminal activity behind drug and gun trafficking.
Because not all human traffic is necessarily used for sexual purposes. Sometimes people are smuggled into the country illegally so that they can be used for exploited labor.
I think there's a lot more human trafficking than what we do realize. Even here in Montana, I think it's so in front of our faces that we might not even see it.
A crime that has been euphemized in so many ways over the years. Peonage, servitude, human trafficking. But no matter what we call it, what we're dealing with is modern slavery.
First of all, I think the human trafficking numbers are underreported in our state. I know they are, because it can be hidden.
Making more Montanans aware of this criminal activity is key to ending it.
The signing of the TVPA in the 2000s labeled human trafficking as a federal crime and established the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons, who are required to publish a TIP report every year.
Since its first publication in 2001, the TIP report has prompted foreign governments to enact legislation, establish national action plans, and implement anti-trafficking policies and programs.
This act also set new standards of protecting victims, prosecuting traffickers, and preventing trafficking from even happening in the first place. This act has been reauthorized many times.
Government plays an important role, but no one entity can do this alone. We need all hands on deck.
You take away a kid from a family, you take away an adult from a family, and it has major impacts to those parents and those kids.
One of the #1 techniques that sex traffickers use is they compromise their victim in somehow, some way.
Oftentimes it's young people, oftentimes it's younger girls that are involved in human trafficking. And the scars, the emotional scars, the pain that can go with that horrible experience their victims.
Human trafficking victims often are too young, too frightened, too trapped in their circumstances to speak for themselves.
That's the other thing, is for a long time we didn't talk about sex trafficking. We called victims of sex trafficking prostitutes. We gave them a negative connotation. We made them responsible, and we didn't make the trafficker responsible.
No matter the form, human trafficking is modern-day slavery.
Human trafficking is a problem everywhere, worldwide problem. Human trafficking is worse than ever before.
I don't think it's just an American problem. I think it's a global issue on all levels.
That's why we got to bring more awareness to it, so that those who are caught in human trafficking, it can be almost a form of slavery. If they're caught in that life, we need to find a way to get them out of it.
Probably the most generalized rule I can think of that will help you with human trafficking is that to not talk to people you don't know in real life. Human traffickers are very, very good at building a relationship with you online from a stranger perspective.
We want to send a clear message to traffickers that if they bring their business to Montana, they'll be put in jail.
Sadly, teenagers and young adults, especially women, have to deal with the fear of being trafficked. You may have thought slavery was abolished in 1865, but human trafficking is the modern-day slavery.
This is only a small piece of a much larger issue that we hope the TVPA can still help solve, so that girls like us can go out and live without constant fear of trafficking.
Thanks, Denae and Rilee. It's encouraging to see the light you're shining on this important issue.